Good evening, America. I am the big red one guy reminding you that together we must break the machine. Well, it's the day after Thanksgiving. I hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful day off. I hope you guys all got stuffed and whatnot and had all the best foods that your family and friends may have brought over. If you're watching any sports, hopefully your teams won for the day. I know mine got absolutely pasted, so that's just what it is for those of us that actually watch sports on Thanksgiving. Anyway, tonight should be a very, very good night. We have a special guest tonight. You've heard Reddaywalker and I on more than one occasion talk at length and ad nauseum about local elections and how important they are and how we have to get involved. Tonight we have Ashley Oyama from the beautiful state of Hawaii. She ran for her House district, I believe it was District 5 for her state. So that is a local election and on the state level. And she's going to get into it tonight with us on what caused her to take up that charge and head towards trying to become a state member and represent her district, and also what it entails to actually do that. So that way, those of you who are considering it in your own states, maybe you can kind of get an idea what's going on. So, without further ado, let's bring in Red Day and Ashley Oyama. Hi, Ashley. Say hello to America. Let everybody know where they can find you, and then we'll get right into how you what brought you to essentially run for your house state. Your house seat in your district.
All right. Well, I'm, just like a normal person, normal mom. I wanted to change. I wasn't happy with what I was seeing, and I talk a lot about it, so I have to be about it as well. So I figured that was my in to do something different. You can find me on Instagram. I've had Facebook and a whole bunch of other stuff, but Instagram is my main profile. You can find a couple, actually, my personal, Ashley Oyama. I also have my school Instagram and then my teacher account as well.
Well, Red Day, it's nice to see you, man. Hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. And I know you said you had some questions for Ashley. Let's get into it tonight.
Yep. Yeah, I'm still recovering from Thanksgiving. Had
Yeah.
ate too much, but thankfully got a nice long weekend now to recover.
Well, you like to walk, so you'll be able to get your walk in.
Yes, a lot of walking, and now that the weather's getting cool, makes it a lot easier too. So,
So
um,
Ashley, talk to us. What caused you to say, "Hey, enough's enough"? What did you see in your district? Who was your representative at the time? Um, and what led you to go ahead and make that? Just go ahead and charge head first into it.
So kind of what I mentioned to you guys, I'm really a lot about whatever I do or whatever I say, I want to make sure that I'm doing it as well. And the conversation kept coming up about how just a lot of things were not right in our state, especially in our district, my district. And I was talking so much about it, and I, decided, okay, I have to do something about it. What can I do? It was sitting in my mind to run for. Basically, it was there's two different positions. Like there's the county council position, which is basically for the island itself, and then you have that state position for the entire state of Hawaii. So I was thinking, okay, I was going to start small and I was going to do county council. But when
I'm sorry to cut you off. Can you tell everybody what island, just so they know?
Oh, it's on the Big Island. So Hawaii
Okay.
Island. We
Okay.
call the island the Big Island, Hawaii Island, but it's the state of Hawaii. So I was deciding, I'm not a political person by any means. I have no background. I have no family that was ever in politics. So I don't know anything about it. So I figured, okay, let's try, baby steps. Let's do county council. So I was kind of looking into it. My main focus and priority is education. I am a teacher. So I kind of wanted to make sure that the position that I run for, I could have some kind of say, or I can help in ways to make sure education took a different path than what it's on now. So when I found out county council had no say in education, I was like, oh man, maybe it's not my path. Maybe it's not meant to be. Um, a couple weeks after that, I had some people reach out to me. Come to this training. We're doing a training on running for office. We'll fly you over to Kauai and listen to the presentation. And if you're interested, we'll help you. So I figured, yeah, whatever, I'm going to do it. Let's try it. So I went over, kind of, listened to what they had to say, but it was very well planned out. Their presentation kind of targeted the representative that I would be running against. So it talked a lot about the bills and the measures that she was pushing forward, some of the things that she was standing behind, which was the complete opposite of what I was standing behind. And so, strategically, they knew what they were doing. They wanted me to run for that position. So I left thinking, okay, it's either now or never. I have to get in there. I have to do something about it. And so I ended up committing to it. I said, yes, I'll do it. I'll run, but I'm going to run on my terms. I'm just a normal working mom. I don't have X amount of money that I can throw into a campaign. I don't have all this extra time because my priority is my school, my family, and my children. And so they said they understood that. And I said, I'm going to work within my means, and I'm not going to be able to fly to another island for a fundraiser. I can't do all these things because I'm a teacher too. I'm teaching. So they said they understood that. And so I thought, okay, this is, it was kind of lining up for me to run. So I thought, and, it kind of happened really quickly. Basically, like I mentioned, the reason I wanted to run was for education. The the representative now that represents my district has really pushed a lot of things forward that as a mother and as a teacher, I cannot stand behind. Basically, as a human being, I cannot stand behind it. And I figured that was my way. I have to change this. And if it's not for just me, for all the future kids that's coming up. So, I got into that. I was working with a couple of people, and you can just feel in yourself when something isn't right. The direction I wanted to go and the direction that the team wanted to go, it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't my beliefs. It wasn't what I was about. And so I had to cut ties with that. I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. It's, I'm not just putting myself out there. Like, this is who I am. And I think a lot of people really look at the character of who you are, and I couldn't stand behind something that I knew that I wasn't going to be doing my own self. So I kind of cut ties with that, and that left me and my campaign manager just kind of doing it on our own. And we did what we could. We did a lot of sign waving. We went to a few of the meet and greets. My district is really big, so I have basically half of my island. I have to go east and west. So I was doing a lot of things on my own. I did some fundraising. I got as much money as I could, and that is what we put toward, like, our signs and whatnot. But it was a really small thing. I didn't, like I said, I couldn't do things out of my own means because it was my priority, but my school is my priority. So I was juggling working full time, being a mom, being a wife, and then doing the campaign. So I kind of I it was a rocky start for me, but I think people that know me, they know what I was standing for, and I think that's what it was, my character and what I said I was going to do and what I've done in the past. They saw that, and I think that character is important. And I think more, when you vote, you need to look at the character of a person and not just the name, not just the label. And unfortunately, the state of Hawaii is just so consumed by labels, basically. And
Yeah.
that's the difficult part. That is the hard part when you are running as a candidate, because you're running against these labels.
What are some of the things that people? What are some of the assumptions that people that thought about you when they saw like the R after your name? Like, did you? I'm sure you talked to a lot of people. Did they come to you with, like, these notions of, like, well, you're a Republican, that means this or that you had to clarify for them?
So I never came out and said I'm a Republican. The values
Hmm.
that I stand behind just so happens to line up as a Republican. And I
Fair enough.
knew that was going to be a problem for some people. And I
Hmm.
knew that just the ideologies behind the R, behind what they think it stands for, because of what the mainstream media puts out there. Hawaii is so bad with the mainstream media and
Mm.
and the labels. I always talked about, faith, family, and freedom. That is what I stood for, and that is so important for me. And it's also important to a lot of other people in the state of Hawaii. So
Mhm.
I had a couple people, how do you stand behind something like this? And I said, well, I'm not standing behind a label. I'm standing behind my beliefs. It just so
Right.
happens it's attached to that. We can't, and I would always go back to the conversation of, we can't keep looking at a label, a Democrat, a Republican. You have to look at
Mhm.
the person behind that label, because you have, the incumbent right now, you have her, she's a Democrat standing for all
Right.
these things, but it's her actions are the opposite. And so that's
Sure.
what I kept trying to push out. I'm like, you have to look to see what's happening. They're saying one thing, but they're doing something completely different. You have to look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah, absolutely. Then that just goes to we need to hold people very accountable. They when they get up on the stage and they're talking all this talk, I mean, it goes all the way up to like, someone like a Kamala Harris say they say one thing, but then you look at their record and say, well, you've never supported this thing in your entire career, or you've always voted against this. So why are you trying to say that? Oh, but I care about this. I care about these things when your vote is the most important thing when they come up, when they come up with bills or, resolutions and things like that. And if you're somebody that's always voting against, school choice, for example, or something like that, why wouldn't you want kids to have all the opportunities that they want? It doesn't seem to fit with some of the things that you say. Um, when you say, when you say that the news or the media on Hawaii is bad, I'm assuming it's like very biased, slanted.
Yep, it definitely is. So the chart that's up now, that was a piece
Mhm.
that I had pushed out regarding, it was in my
Oh yeah.
last
Mhm.
final weeks. I pushed this out through via text message and social media.
Mhm.
But a few weeks after I had created my campaign account, I was being heavily shadow banned. I used to have so many hits on my account, and then it started dropping. And I'm like, great. Like, I was going to use social media as a tool because it's free. You reach a lot of people. And I was trying to be deliberate in the delivery of my campaign information. So when I put this one out here, it was insane to me, because all of these things is public record and public knowledge. You can find all of this online. You can find it on the Hawaii legislative site. You can find all of it there. When I pushed this out, and I also worked with another social media profile to help me push it out, it was insane the amount of backlash that I got from this. Like, people would never do something like this. This is fake news. This is propaganda. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Very.
And I was like, this is the reason why I'm running. Look at all of these things that the incumbent has been pushing out, who introduced those last two bills. Luckily they were shut down, but she supported one that's going to be going into effect January 2025, which allows 14-year-olds and up to get access to abortion medication in their school clinics, which is
Mm.
wild to me. And a lot of people are so misinformed. They think you can't go to the health room to get these things. I'm like, it's it's a health room. They also have like community clinics in high schools now, where you have an APRN, a nurse that's on campus that can treat for all of these things. You're not going to, it's going to be confidential. Your parents won't know, insurance companies won't know. And this is rolling out in January, and people had no idea. They just label this fake news. I'm like, look it up. Look up the bill. It's there. Our governor signed this into law. And it's just, I had to kind of go through it. And I made another Instagram where I had all my screenshots. I had all of the bill numbers. I had all of those things. And it just is wild to me that people don't know what's happening, especially when it comes to the kids. I just, that is something, like I
They're
mentioned.
very low info, very
Yeah.
low info voters, and unfortunately, I mean, for the longest time, I think Republicans were that way too. They kind of had their heads in the sand. It took somebody like Trump to come along and really start to change the party. I
Yeah,
still don't necessarily consider
highlight.
myself a Republican, but we still see those same uh, stigmas that people associate. They think that if you're a Republican, well, you're just like the Bush Republicans,
Yeah,
and all the Republicans that came before him. The Romneys, and it's like it couldn't be that is the old guard that we're trying desperately to
to get rid of.
phase out of the party. What's that?
I said to get rid of. We're trying
Yeah,
desperately to
yeah.
get rid of these fools.
We're trying to because it's almost like there's another party switch going on right now because it's it just seems like the Republicans. That's not really a Republican. I consider myself more of like a constitutional conservative, where we're looking more at life and liberty and small government, less taxes, no wars, and less government control, no government overreach, and it's like the Democrats have like kind of taken that over. They're like, yep, that's what we want to do. We want to control how many scoops of ice cream you can have in the morning, down to everything. Um, but I did want to mention one thing, just so you're aware, because I know Eric's aware of this too. Just because you're in a red state like where I am, like I'm in Florida, the media still sucks. They're
Yeah,
all they're all part of the same conglomerates, and as red as Florida is, we have like a supermajority in the state Congress, and we have a strong governor that we have strong senators, both Republicans, and some great reps from all around the state, and yet the media is still just it's they're just liberal central.
Yep.
It's
And I
yeah.
like they
They're
just
just little.
criticize every single thing that every single person does.
They're just
It's
the
like it's
smaller.
not
They're just
watchable.
Yeah, they're just the smaller affiliates of the bigger ones. That's all
Yeah,
they are. And like you said,
it's not
they're still
watchable.
part of the same family. Now I got a question. Something you mentioned earlier, when you were saying Ashley, was that so was this state party just the Republican Party just essentially cut you off because you didn't want to, you didn't want to follow what it is that they wanted you to do? Can you elaborate on what it is they wanted you to do?
yeah, I just think, I was working with a couple people on Oahu and the Big Island, two different two different ways of life here. Oahu is very city, very fast paced, and on the Big Island where I am at, it's so different. It is more of a laid back country lifestyle, and it's just the thinking of you need to get $50,000. I'm like, whoa, I need to raise $50,000 for my campaign. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that I can raise that much money. I'm not going to ask people for X amount of money when we're all in the same boat here. We're all trying to survive. We're all trying to live. We're all trying to work, 2, 3 jobs to provide for our families. I'm like, I feel bad asking for money, period. If I could do this without asking for money, I would. So when I did the ask for money, I'm like, I'm not going to ask them for a max of $2,000.
But what is that 50,000 for?
It was
Yeah,
to
I
fund
was.
the entire campaign. They wanted to do so many different things, radio ads. They wanted to do, they
Um,
came in with the mentality that they're going to win this. We're going to win this, which is great. But like I said,
it's
it wasn't
it's
me. It wasn't the way that I had foresaw all of these things. And I couldn't do it. I'm not going to ask people to give me money when I didn't feel right about it. And so,
yeah.
as the time was going on and, like, let's do these fundraisers, come up to Oahu. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the constituents that I represent. They're not on that island. I have no ties to Oahu. Everything that I do is here on my island. I want to stay here. I want to do small things with the people here. But it was just it was a miscommunication. It was just not, it wasn't lining up, and I could feel that. And I was just, I was paying them, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not going to pay for something that it just doesn't sit right with me. So,
Yeah.
I parted ways with them, and, I did have a little bit of help from a couple people that's tied to the Republican Party on Oahu, but it was more of, I want to help you because I want to help you, and I'm not going to say I'm going to help you and I'm going to charge you X amount of money, and then I don't get the help that I need.
Yeah.
So
It's a very old school way of thinking, though. And I mean, if you just look at this last election cycle, I mean, like I was just referencing like the media and the ad and the news here, like in my state was awful. Not just the news, like every other commercial was, a Democrat on TV talking about how horrible Republicans are, or anybody that wasn't a Democrat, who could have just been an independent that was running, but it was like nonstop ads from Democrats. They raised so much money and they pumped so much money into radio ads. I saw every time I tried to watch my favorite YouTube video, freaking Democrat ad pops up first. They wasted billions, and it still didn't matter. The entire country. I mean, unfortunately, your race didn't quite go that way, but overall, if you look at all of the states together, there was it was probably the biggest red wave of the last like four cycles. The conservative ground of red, red leaning, whatever you want to call it. They made ground, we made grounds like in almost every state. No, excuse me,
Yep.
every state made more
Every state,
grounds,
including a blue state like
and
Hawaii. We made
including
some.
a blue state like Hawaii. Every state, it may not have reflected in the final, electoral college count, but every California got more red, Vermont got more red, Washington got more red. Um, and you know what? The Republicans didn't raise hardly as much as the Democrats did. They weren't pounding the ads. They did a lot more grassroots thing, knocking on doors, ballot harvesting, going on podcasts. It's a different way of thinking. It's not just about, oh, how many TV ads can we throw on there, or how many radio ads can we throw at people? There's definitely a way. Like even when my rep here, you know who my rep is? My rep is Anna Polina Luna.
She's
Um,
awesome.
she's awesome. And I remember when she first got started, we literally had, car parades, with her flags and everything like that, just going through neighborhoods, and we were all volunteering to do it. She wasn't paying anybody. We were all just trying to help her. And she would hold rallies here and there. We weren't paying. We were donating, what we could. I didn't give her $10,000. I didn't have that money to give her. I think I gave her like $50, but um, there's just it's a different world. Despite all of that media that they were trying so hard, to help Democrats from like top to bottom, it didn't matter. People that got a certain level of, I don't know if it's a level of consciousness or waking up or whatever you want to call it. They basically had enough. I think just like a little bit of support could have gone a long way. Maybe with just a different way of thinking for you. Maybe it sounds like more your way. If someone was just more in line with the way you were thinking, they could have worked with that.
Right. We did, I kind of like broke down the numbers too in my district. It's the biggest district on my island.
Hmm.
And it's difficult because in our county council races, that's usually decided in the primaries. Not a lot of people
Hmm.
come out and vote in the primaries. So we're pushing
Mhm.
people to go out and vote in the primaries because, it's pretty important. You're going to decide the county council seats and
Yep.
have nobody showing up to vote. So you have all the incumbents easily winning their races because not everyone's coming out to vote, which was a bummer for our island because we had some damn good county council representatives that would have a really good chance of making it into the generals, but nobody came out to vote them through, and it was so disappointing to see that. But with our votes compared to last year, in my district we gained almost 3,000 new voters this election, which is huge.
Wow.
We were always below, like in the 40% of people coming out to vote. You have the registered voters, and then you have like 40% of that coming out. So we were over 50%, which is a win. Like I tried to look at all the good things that came out of this. We had a lot of people
Yep.
come out and a lot of people vote. You guys probably saw this on the news. The day of voting, lines were ridiculous. People
Yeah.
were, finishing up voting by 11:45, and it's like, well, why do we only have two places to vote on each island? It makes no sense, and it's just
Yeah.
it keeps it keeps that mentality of why people don't vote, right? Like, well, this is what's going to happen. They're cheating. There's nowhere to vote. There, we can't do all of this. Like, it feeds into what the media is putting out there. And so, like, the biggest hope that we have with President Trump coming in is to do election reform. And I think with that, because I talked to a lot of other candidates that didn't get through, if he's going to put something out for election reform, I think that is the only way we can have fair elections locally, because it is, like you guys said, it's just a machine. It's just a Democrat machine just plowing through everybody. And, I just pray that he does, have some kind of election
Are there
reform through.
are there
I
are
think
there shenanigans in Hawaii though?
Oh, there's always shenanigans. 7:01 p.m. They called the race for Kamala, and people were still in line voting.
Oh, I
It was
did hear that. Yeah,
insane.
I did
It
hear
was
that. Yeah, it's
People
true.
were pissed because they're standing in line waiting to vote. And how do you do that? How do you call? I mean, I know they always do that. That's what
that's
everybody
meant, yeah,
says.
that's meant to
No,
dissuade people that are,
yeah,
it's meant to
and it
dissuade the
turns
people that are
out
online.
that that's what was happening. Once
Mhm.
that 7:01 call came out, people were leaving the lines because we had people there. They were filming, and people were leaving because they called the race. And it's just it's just like a well-oiled machine for them. That is just how they are.
Shouldn't be allowed to do that.
I know it
That
should be
that should
illegal.
be first rule.
We have our elections commissions meeting that we go to, and it is the most illegally ran meetings. It's ridiculous. I sat in on two. It was through Zoom. I just couldn't do it. They're breaking the law, basically talking about all these things. You have the panel or the representatives voting, to not push through certain measures, and then you have the one in charge. Nope, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. It's like, how are you even doing this? And it's just so, like I said, we are such a corrupt state. It is just unbelievable. It's all before everyone's eyes. But again, it's like they don't believe it. They will never believe that this stuff is happening, because in their perfect little world, it's, everything's good.
It
I've
sounds
never
to me,
quite understood that. No, go ahead, Rick. Go ahead, Rick.
so, like one of the things. Oh, I mean, we're talking about how entrenched the Democrat machine is. I'm assuming that you know the Republican machine there, which really isn't a machine, is just not that better, judging by what they put you through, how they were looking for strings attached in order for them to and it goes to what Scott was saying, okay, that the old guard mentality thinking is the quid pro quo, okay, I'll help you out, but what are you going to do for me type thing, what have you done for me lately mentality is just that's what we're trying to push out. So it seems to me like that's something that's probably pretty deep still in the state of Hawaii, whereas the other 48 we're fighting tooth and nail to try to get rid of some of these fools that are in charge, or not in a seat that we want to get rid of. At least we can primary them out, or in charge of like the state and local Republican parties and whatnot, and conservative. Well, the conservative parties are usually pretty good. They usually pretty unfortunately we have to still align with Republicans, because Republicans are close to what it is that we believe as conservatives and constitutional Republicans, constitutional conservatives really. So I'm assuming that the Republican Party in the state of Hawaii is just not too stellar.
Yeah, there's, like I mentioned, I before doing this, I had no idea. I steered clear from all of those things. I try to keep myself updated on things, but I try to stay clear of all of that. And towards the ending of the campaign, like, a lot of things were coming out, and I was just like, whoa, it's a lot deeper than me. It's a lot deeper than anything. And it's insane to see all of these things. And it's just so, I don't know what to say. Just as like a normal person, like, doing this, it's so disheartening, to, like, want to create this change, to do all these things, knowing that there's really good people out there that want to do this for the right reasons, but there's just so many other things involved in everything. And either you're part of that or you're not. And it's, like, I think about that
Politics.
also. And I know that's like everywhere also, but it's so frustrating, and it just makes me not want to do it again. But then when I see all the people that came out in my district, it's like, wow, that says something. There hasn't been a Republican running for my seat for a while. So to just come out and see the amount of people that, register to vote to do that. And like I mentioned, they can't all donate money to you, but that's their donation to you, is they're voting for you. That is
Right.
their cause. That's how they're helping the cause. And that's huge, I think.
So what is it
Just
every Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just sharing information too, helps your candidates online. You know, that's whether it's a local candidate or a national candidate. Just like we always talk about, just the best way we can just get our message across is just never stop talking. And online, you could have had, I don't know what type of help you had online. If you had someone in your family helping you with like social media, you had had an assistant or an intern that might have been able to help you with that. um, there's ways to just kind of share your message, like the graphic you created. You could have done that, and you could have just keep sharing things around, because the more people see stuff like that, the more they have to just start to think about it.
Right. And
um,
that's what I had said. Once this goes out, people are either forced to, like I mentioned, believe it or think that this is fake, that they have to go and research it themselves. But I
mhm.
think people, I mean, I don't want to say this, but they're just so lazy. They trust whatever information that they get. And once they see, oh, it's misinformation, oh, it's misinformation to them. They don't have to do anything further. Why would a human being ever stand to do any of those things? But it's there. It's in front of us to see that it's there, and people are doing these things, and it sucks. It really does suck.
So is it in your state, obviously on the national level it's every 2 years for a House seat. Is it every 2 years in your state or every four?
Yes, it's every 2 years.
Okay, so are you in again for the next one?
I mean, I'm praying that President Trump really comes down with election reform, because the only way that I will run again is if we have same day elections in person on the ballot, like how it used to be. We had a lot of public schools open up as polling places, so people could
Yeah.
go here on our island, which is the biggest island in the state of Hawaii. We have only two polling places. And for me, the nearest polling place for me is about an hour and a half away. And it's insane that I have to go either hour half one way or I go 2 hours the other way to go and vote in person. It
Right.
makes no sense. So unless there's some kind of radical change that comes through where we go back to what we used to have, where it's fair, where people feel that it's their voices and their votes are going to be heard, then I will. That's what I kind of said. I feel like as my first time run, the amount of votes that I got, I thought that was amazing. Yeah, I lost, but I won a lot of in a lot of other things. So
Yeah.
just depending, it just kind of depends on, what's to come in the future.
I
Yeah, I
wonder
know
though.
that
You know what?
oh, hang on. Yeah, so I know that like what is that, the Save Act or something like that? I think it's called,
Mhm.
that the House was trying to push through. The only problem with it is that, because of the way our constitution is set up, is that they can only make it for like national elections, right? And then you got to hope that the trend, okay, kind of carries over into the states. And because of and Jonathan, if you can let me know what some, I always draw a blank, what amendment uh for voting rights and whatnot like that, in regards to the states and their autonomy when it comes to voting. Because you see some states have like popular votes, some have that ranked choice voting. So every state is like different. So I know that that's something that can get done at least for national elections, right? And say for national elections you got to have voter ID, right? So which kind of forces you on the state level, okay, to make the change. Well, if you want to vote in the national election, you got to have voter ID, right? You got to have a license, whatever, and prove that you're a citizen, all that stuff. So it kind of falls back to the states to make the changes, because then people can't, all right, if you're showing up and not showing ID, you can't vote for a national. How they enforce that is a different thing, right? Like, that the blue states are never going to enforce that anyway. The red states will probably enforce stuff like, you got to, if you want to vote for the
Right.
national election, you have to show your ID. right? So, but I think states like where Red Day is from, they got it situated. Within 2 hours, everything is taken care of. After what happened in 2000 with the hanging Chad, they fixed their elections and they haven't had any issues since 2000. Okay, when it comes to elections in Red Day State, so you got to hope that if he manages to get something on his desk when it comes to fixing the stuff with the what do you call it, voter fraud and all that other stuff, right? And getting rid of
Yeah.
mail-in ballots. That for if you start on a national level, then the states are kind of forced be like, well, people aren't going to be able to, all right, we want to cheat for Kamala, right? Okay, or whoever the Democrat, because as you see what's going on in California, and we're going to talk about that on Monday, all right? But like, it's a tragedy what's going on. This is like almost 3 weeks later, they're still counting votes in states. So hopefully the Save Act gets to his desk. Hopefully the Republicans in the Senate don't screw him over, and we could get something like that to his desk to go to what you were saying about maybe getting some fixing with this voter fraud, voter ID, voting same day elections and stuff like that. Um, you know, uh, and hey Nina, Rogue Nina says what's up, guys, and then so
That's one of
I
the
hope
things
that.
I know. I
Go
always
ahead.
wondered, like, why. I get that the states want to do when it comes to things like that. I guess each state has their own little way of doing things, but I just never understood why so many states were different from one another. It just seems like the most fair way to do it would be to have some general rules, and there doesn't seem to. I'm not even sure if there's any rules that the states share with one another. It seems like every state does it just a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's the
It's
way it's set up in
crazy.
our constitution is that when it comes to voting, it's up to the states, the state legislatures, right? So like what happened during the coup, okay, pandemic, all right, with the board of elections in all these states changing rules and stuff like that, that was absolutely and totally illegal. And because in these same states, and we've talked about it at length, all right, where in many cases it was Republicans that were in charge of the state legislatures, they did absolutely nothing months in advance before the elections to sue their board of elections and say, nope, you didn't come to us, okay, for this rule change for us to put it into law and give it to the governor to sign into law. All right, but they didn't do that. So what happened after the election in 2020? The state supreme courts and all that other stuff were like, we're not going to deal with this. You didn't take care of it in the months leading up to the election. Why do you want us to take care of it right now? We're not going to. This is a freaking radioactive. We're not touching it. They should have done something about it, but they didn't. And that's just unfortunately that's the nature. So going back to what I was saying, if he can get something on his desk that changes significantly, how our national elections are done. Okay, same day voting. Everything has to be counted on the same day. None of this counting. Getting rid of freaking mail-in ballot votes for national elections. Then on the state level, the states have to make a decision. Am I going to comply with this and end up fixing our elections in the state, or we're going to have essentially
Or
two
will.
styles of elections, one for national and one for state, and it's going to cause a huge constitutional crisis within their own states. So, it would be nice if we could get something. I'm with you, Ashley, if we can get something to fix this. But, we need people like you to run, right? Because, you have your faculties together, okay, you know what it is that you stand for, okay, your principles are tight, and you want to, what do you call it, you want to fix things in your state, especially your district. So I hope to see you again. If you decide to run again, people like Red Day and I will be in your corner. We will blast the airwaves, not only here on this podcast, but we will blast it on our IGs, on our Twitters, whatever it is we have to make sure that your message gets out this time. Because if I know you saw it, Red Day and I were like, leading up to the election, I kept, every time he sent me something in regards to you, I didn't even know you at the time yet, I posted it. I just was like, and he was
Thanks,
posting
Rob.
things all the time, so
I did. I
we're
shared a
here
lot
for
of your
you.
posts.
Yes, I did see that. I so appreciate all of that.
You
So
know what? I don't.
don't.
One of the things that I don't think is in the Save Act, but they really should. I don't know if it's too. Obviously, it's too late, probably, but they need to make some rules about if they're not gonna come up with some like a uniform methodology for every state. They at least need to come up with some guidelines for elections. And when I say that, I mean like they can't be making rule changes like less than 6 months before an election. Like that
Yeah, I agree.
has I'm sick of this. Even this year, they were. I think the only thing that was different this year was that a lot of Democrats were trying to, but Republicans were, at least in many states, they were jumping on them
Yeah,
immediately, and they were, they were getting judges to, say, no, 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 we can't do that. It's too close to the election, or
yeah.
something like that. 3 to 4 weeks before the election, that's not enough time for everyone to get everything together. Voters don't even know what might have changed. You know, it just anytime you do that, you're just trying to create an advantage and not give people the time to react to it. It should be a level playing field, and the best candidate should win. Simple as that.
It goes back to what I was saying, right? Like, I agree with you. Like, there should be some uniformity, and I believe there in the Saved Act there is some like legit uniformity but again, it's for national elections, and if I feel this is just me and this is just an opinion and my take is because, federal law usually ends up dictating what states do. So when we pass something, okay, on the federal level, the states usually take it up, and even if it's not a constitutional thing for their state constitution to amend it, all right, but it's something that they have to enact because the federal law is going to supersede it, right? So in many occasions, nobody gets persecuted on federal law, right? Everything is still done on the state level, but states usually follow suit when it comes to things like that. So I'm thinking that the strategy that the Republicans were thinking in the House when they came up with the Save Act was let's get this in place, and if we can get it to Trump's desk and get him to sign it, at least there's some uniformity on the national level. This is what you want to do. If you want to vote for the president, you want to vote for your senator, or you want to vote for whoever's in the House of Representatives, you must meet this criteria, right? So if you have to meet that criteria for this, all right, again, it goes back to now you're going to have two different types of elections, ways to vote in your state. The states aren't going to do that. That's going to cost them a lot of money. It's going to cause all kinds of mishaps, and it's not only going to affect whether you have an R on in front of your name, but it's mainly going to affect whether you have a D in front of your name because they're the ones who do all the shenanigans.
Yeah. Well, there was a Democrat today that actually, I didn't quite catch her name. Maybe John can look it up. There was a Democrat today that was talking about some states should secede from the United States now. Did you
Yeah,
hear about
she's
that?
some idiot. Yeah, she's an idiot from here in the state of New York. She's just a monkey. Yeah, she's just she wants to secede now. But think about it, right?
New
The
York,
Democrats, the
Massachusetts.
Democrats think, but it's a Democrat thing, right? When they had
Yeah.
slaves in the South, they wanted to secede, and they did secede, and we ended up in a civil war. It's the same thing, all right? It's Democrats again wanting to secede, all right, because they can't get their way.
Yeah.
Their
It'll be
children, their
funny though,
actual
because if they
children.
did, if they actually did leave, then what they would do is they would create a huge advantage for the Republicans left.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you go ahead and leave.
Huge advantage. Go ahead and
Yeah,
leave. Well,
if you've ever,
literally,
yeah, go ahead and leave. Just do it. If you've ever read the book Atlas Shrugged, it'll be exactly like Atlas Shrugged. Okay, the states that took the measures to, take austere measures survived, and all the
well,
freaking ones
yeah,
that were just dumping all their money into entitlements and everything else,
we'll get
ended
a
up crumbling.
supermajority in the House, supermajority in the
No,
Senate.
yeah, they'll
We'll
never
get
win
eight
another
of the
election
nine
ever again.
justices on SCOTUS, and we'll just plow over everything.
Yeah.
Be
So,
hilarious.
going back to Ashley, one of the things we talked a little bit about, you were saying that one of the things that drove you to run was the stuff that was going on during, the pandemic and whatnot. And let the people know about your values and what you did, because I think it's admirable what you did. I did the same thing when it came to when it came to medicine. I was an EMS. All right, they wanted me to do some things. I was looking at all the medical tyranny that was going on, right in front of me, right in front of my eyes, and I was like, I can't be part of that, especially because I took an oath twice on two different occasions, all right, to what do you call it, to protect the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. I just couldn't stand by. I was like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to go my way. And then Jonathan with the answer. Here's your answer. Senator Liz Kruger. She even has a third Reich name. Um, anyway, so go ahead, Ashley.
So yeah, similar to you, I was, I was a public school teacher. I knew I wanted to be a teacher from third when I was in the third grade, third, fourth, and fifth grade. I knew I wanted to be a teacher. As I kind of went through my life, I had my two boys. I was able to move in while they were going through their educational journey. I got to move along with them. So in preschool, when they were in early education, I was a preschool teacher. Once they transitioned into kindergarten, I moved into that as well. So I kind of followed them along. And then at that same time, I was, doing schooling to become a teacher. So I finally, got to be a teacher. I got my degree and all of that stuff. And then, you know, I knew that was my calling. I knew it was my calling. And in my very first year, I I saw so many things that I didn't like. And I saw so many things that were being done for, money, for other things, and not for the betterment of the kids. And that was something that really, and I was very outspoken from the beginning. And if I didn't like something or I knew it didn't benefit the kids, I would say something. And, kind of like as a new teacher, they don't really like that, right? You have to know your role basically.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. If it was not going to benefit the kids, I was going to say something. And if I had to do like it was ulterior motives, I was going to say something. We're there to help support the kids and do everything that we possibly can for the kids. And as a couple years went by, I won. Like I was saying, I was given the title of Teacher of the Year in my district. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm getting recognized. I'm a newer teacher. I was being recognized, and I thought, oh, that was really awesome. Like my hard work is not going unnoticed. Then COVID happened the year after, and I it was weird. We were teaching our kids through computer. I didn't see my actual class till 6 weeks before the school year ended. So when we started up that new year, everybody could come back to school. Everybody was cured. There was no, you could stand next to somebody now. And it was just, the whole mandate started coming out. You needed to have that, or you can't show up to work. You need to get tested. You have to pay for that on your own. And I said, no, absolutely not. I don't get the flu shot. I don't feel like I need the flu shot. I still come to school every year. Nobody knew that. You didn't tell me to stay home. So what is this? What is the difference between this? If this was so deadly, then we would not even be in school at all. So I resigned. I was hoping that I could do leave without pay for just, the semester to kind of let everything simmer down and hopefully it goes back to normal. I was denied leave without pay. So that is the reason I resigned. About a week after I resigned, I had 8 families reach out to me asking if I would teach their kids. They were going to pull their kids out of the public school system and they wanted me to teach their kids. And, about half of them I taught prior in third and fourth grade. So I was like, man, I have to do something. I mean, I knew I still was going to teach. I just didn't know what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. So I ended up teaching kids at my home. I turned my front porch into my classroom. My living room was turned into another classroom, and I was teaching my 8 students. I taught them for about 4 months at my own home, and in the meantime, I was getting a lot of people reaching out. Are you going to open up a bigger school? Do you want to? Can my kids come to your house? Can you teach them? And I'm like, I don't know. I have to think about it. I don't know what I'm doing. Basically, I don't know where I would find the space for this. And just a lot of praying and a lot of right people kind of came into path with me, and a space opened up for us. And we started off the new year in a bigger building. I welcomed 3 other teachers. We welcomed 3 other classes,
Awesome.
and yeah, it was amazing. While everybody in public school was being masked up, they were told they have to stay apart from each other and all of these things. Here's my school in the middle of all of this, normal. Kids coming to school normally, no masks, none of that. None of that shenanigans of dividers up. You can't talk to the person when you're eating lunch. You have to be quiet. You have to put your mask back on. None of that stuff. So here I am at my school. We're running normally. And it's amazing. It was just like we were back to normal, and we kind of kept doing that the whole entire time while kids were masked up. So it was really nice to be able to do that. This year is our 4th year of
Awesome.
having my school. And still to this day, we do the same thing. We will never do any of those things. If you're sick, you stay home. You take your medicine, you take your vitamins, you take your essential oils, whatever it is you do, and then you rest. And again, I don't need um, a vaccination for you to come to school or be cleared or a COVID test. And I'm very upfront with that with parents. And I'm very out in the open about that. I will never do
Right.
any of those things. And it's your choice if you want your child to enroll in my school or not. And so
Right.
every year we've always had, our numbers are always varied, but we always either start the year at capacity and we end the year at capacity. And
Awesome.
it has been amazing to do the opposite of what public schools are doing. We are able to focus on the children's inner self. We noticed when we had them coming from public school, there was so many things going on with them. I think just the trauma of being in school during COVID was just too much for them. It was so hard for kids to learn because inside they were not good. So we really had to take a lot of time to focus on them and build them
That's for
up
you.
and help them.
That's
And
that's from Rogue Nina, Ashley. That's for you.
oh,
That's an
thank you.
excellent teacher.
Thank you. But basically, it was just common sense things, focus on them, help them to get better. And the academics came right after that. Once you took care of them inside, everything else was perfect. We do just everything is the opposite. We don't have standardized testing because public schools thrive on standardized testing. That's where a
Yeah.
lot of their funding comes from. We do not do standardized testing. Parents have the option if they would like. Recess. Call me
I was just
crazy, but
about to ask that. I was just about to ask that.
kids need to play. In public school, they had like a max of 15 minutes of a morning recess, maybe
Yeah.
like another 10 minutes before lunch. That is not enough. And that is why there's so many behaviors in the classroom. At,
We used to have an
you know,
hour. I remember as a kid, we used to have an hour. Like we were literally
yes,
outside for an hour.
yes,
And
yes,
if it was too cold to be outside, we went to our recess was in the whatever we had like a gym. We had actually in my
Sure.
public school in New York City, we had like a basement that was like wide open that was kind of doubled as a lunchroom. And it was like there was just space in there for us to do things as kids and stuff like that. But then in my elementary school, they were actually building a new one right next to it. So we were all going to be in fourth grade. When I was in fourth grade, I transferred over to the other one. Had a huge yards. Had like it was all concrete, but it was like had softball fields, and we could do we could do gym outside and everything. It was like a whole to do, but like we had like an hour worth of like just running around, and getting all the energy out. And like you said, so let me ask you a question: what's the state's position on what you do? Because I know with homeschooling or anything like that, there's like the state is always trying to be
Mm.
a pain in the ass with people
oh
who
yeah,
do
oh
homeschooling.
they are, they have been. My first year, they gave us such a hard time, and then the whole stigma of homeschool. When you think of that, mainstream media has made it like, oh, you're gonna be, you're not gonna socialize, you're weird,
I
all the
know
weird
it's
kids do that.
retarded. It's retarded.
Again, it goes back to those labels, right? And that's what we're kind of stuck in. And so, the public school system, they did give me a hard time my first year. They threatened all my parents that their kids had to re-enroll so they could do state testing. I said, no way. You don't have to state test. It is not mandatory like you guys push through. It's only mandatory because you want the money that goes with it. It is not.
Right.
Parents have a right to say, absolutely not, I'm refusing this. And I've been vocal about it. Once when I found that out, that we as parents have that right to refuse the test, I shared that with as much people as I possibly can. When you see the kids in school getting ready to take these standardized tests, they are so scared for the most
Yeah,
part
absolutely.
because of the pressure that is
Yeah,
on them to do so good, and they have to get a good score. And it is terrible for a third, fourth, and fifth grader to have that kind of pressure. That's not
yeah.
okay at all.
Uh,
So when I found out that it's not mandatory, I shared with as many people as I could. I even got in trouble as a teacher for sharing that with parents that had asked me. And I will never stop doing that. Like I
right.
said, if it's best for the kids, we need to be doing that. And that's not what's happening now. So going back to um, basically like the public school system, they came after my parents. You have to enroll your kids back. They have to take this test. I said, no, they don't. Please do not say that and bully them into
Yeah.
thinking that they have to do those things, and it's just parents don't know, they trust what the schools are saying, because the school's not there to do anything bad. They're there to help the kids. They're there to do all these good things. But if you really dig and you really look and you
Yeah.
really get out of the box, because I was in the box and I thought I was doing a magical job and I was doing the best that I could. But it wasn't until I got out of that and when I looked into it, I'm like, my goodness, I was part of the problem. I was part of this big problem. And I know that's the reason all of the things happened the way that it did, because I didn't belong in that. I wasn't made for that. And so, it's gotten better over time. We've kind of refined our communication. We make sure that we're following the homeschool laws. Homeschool laws
Mhm.
are different for each state. So
Right.
I make sure that we are following the Hawaii homeschool laws. We do all the things. But then it always comes down to, it's up to the parents if they want to do those things. At the end of the year, you have to send in a report card to the school. The parents do that. But again, it's up to the parents if they want to turn their report card in or not. So I just,
Right.
I always try to comply and make sure we're following these laws. But again, it's really up to the parents what they want to do. And I really was pushing for school choice, because I think that is the way that it needs to go. There's not a lot of opportunities and not a lot of school options on the Big Island for families. In my district, we only have one middle school for,
Wow.
yeah, and it's a bummer. There's not a lot of options for families. They're all working, right? They're trying to make a living, so it's what's easiest for them. But I really do feel that school choice, and I really pray that that is something that the president really comes out on, because he did make a lot of statements about education and what's going to happen. I really pray that school choice is something that comes down to every state. My sister is in Arizona. They were one of the first states to have school choice, and it was amazing. Like, I see my niece thriving. She gets to choose the things she wants to do, things that she's good at. She gets to learn the way that she wants to learn. And it's because of school choice. It's not a bad thing. It's only made bad because people don't like it. It takes the power away from these big, the Department of Education.
He
So I
wants
do,
he wants to go ahead and give tax credits for people that homeschool,
I
flat straight
know
up.
that would be
So
amazing. That would be amazing. I think of all the
there's no
families
reason
here.
why we can't get that done.
Yeah. I agree.
I,
That,
that
He
would
can
be
make
whatever,
that tax
whatever the
deduction on his own.
Yeah, whatever the next tax stuff he's gonna do, because he's looking he's looking to do some really, really great things with taxes. Again, it all has to come down to the idiots that have to get it to his desk, and it's really the idiots in the Senate. But even we have some morons in the House too. But for the most part, it's the Senate. And even with a majority, it's a slight majority we have some shitheads who are looking to do damage. They're the old remnants and the old guard, the old part of the Mitch McConnell group, the Lisa Murkowski's and that idiot from Maine, whatever I keep forgetting her name is. She
Oh,
gets on my
Susan
fucking nerves.
Collins.
There you go, Susan Collins. Romney's going, we know, and stuff like that, but there's still some usual suspects that are going to be hanging around, lingering. So we got to hope that, hopefully they do the right thing. But listen, we got the right people on the national party level with Lara Trump and what's his name? Michael Watley, is it, from North Carolina, running the show. And they've already threatened, they're saying, go ahead and fuck around with his agenda if you want to, because most of you got elections coming up in, what do you call it, 2026, and we're going to be watching, and we will primary your ass out, and we will. And the way they moved this last election, I believe they can really make some moves with getting some primaries. Especially in deep, you gotta start with deep red places first anyway, where it won't be an issue. A place like up in Maine, that's going to take a fight. Like getting the people up there to vote for another Republican other than Susan Collins is something else, because it's a blue state. Really, it's not. There's only one district up there that's red, and it's a rural area. But I think the homeschooling thing is absolutely fantastic. I've heard and seen a lot of great stories with homeschooling. Let me ask you a question: from like, how big are your classes, and like how many classes do you have now that you said you've been doing this for 4 years now? So
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're just a little bit bigger. You got a couple of more classes, and you said you have a space.
Yeah, we have our own space. So we have a really big 2-story warehouse. So the bottom floor is all classrooms, and the top floor is this big open area. So when it rains, we have a place to play. The kids have a big upstairs area to play. So we do have combo classes. We have a preschool kindergarten class first, second grade, and then we have a third, fourth, fifth grade. And again, it's based on numbers. So we keep
Mhm.
all of our classes very small. We max out at 8, and we're pretty maxed out at all of our classes right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it allows us to really, help the kids where they are needed at that time. You know, with only 8 students, we're able to break them up into smaller groups, and we can really like fine tune our instruction to meet what they need. And that's what we do. We create our own curriculum. We build off of other curriculums that we do have. We take things that we like, but again, we always look to see what it is that the kids like, what it is that they need. If it's not working, we're not going to keep trudging along and forcing it. We redo everything. And that's what's been the best thing about doing homeschool is if it's not working for them, we don't have to keep writing something out until the end of the quarter. We'll change something. If we see after a couple weeks that they're not picking it up, it's something that they just can't understand, we're gonna take it out and we're gonna revamp it, and we're gonna figure out, okay, how are we gonna deliver this in a way that they're gonna pick it up and they're gonna learn it. We've been able to accelerate kids as well. In
Awesome.
public school, you can only go to a certain level. They're not going to accelerate you farther. So we're able to do
Yeah.
that with our kids. That's why we like the combo classes, because we start at one grade, and at the end of the year, they're either at that grade level, the ending grade level, or they're above that. So that's kind of our thinking, is that's what we want to do. We want to just keep pushing them forward. We don't want to stop them once they've reached their ending of their grade level. No, we're going to just keep pushing them. We're going to
Yeah.
keep pushing them further. And so that's been amazing to be able to do. Also to help the struggling kids as well. They need certain things. There's so many gaps in their learning. Um, Being in a regular public school classroom, you have to do what you're told to do, right? You're functioning at a first, second grade level, but you're in a fifth grade classroom, and that's all you're hearing is fifth grade content, but you're just not
Right.
there. Here, we're allowed to kind of just do that. If you are missing things, well, we're gonna make sure you're in a classroom that gives you all of those things. So we are able to do all of that. We're like the flexibility. Again, it's just all what the kids need, and that's what dictates our entire school is whatever they need and however they need it. We're there to do that.
That's amazing because like I read an article not so long ago, and I didn't post it, but like I read it, is that one of the groups of kids, believe it or not, that are actually so overlooked in schools right now are actually gifted kids, kids that should be accelerated and be a great, like, the most they do is give you one grade, right? Like, my brother is my younger brother's a genius, so they skipped him, in kindergarten. He got put right at the first. He didn't even get halfway through kindergarten when they're like, he really belongs in second, but state law only says that we can only put him, one grade and stuff like that. So he was always a grade ahead of everybody else. But I read an article that right now, like, gifted kids are absolutely being overlooked because we've dumbed down schooling in public schools so much with the No Child Left Behind, the Common Core, and all this other crap that's going on, that these kids that are really gifted and incredibly intelligent and should be at least at a minimum one grade higher, okay, learning higher level stuff, are not getting attention to. It seems like what you do with your homeschooling and the way you have it grouped together is that kids that are actually accelerated can actually benefit from what it is that you're doing, because, like, if they're in first grade and they can pick up, all right, what it is that a second grader is doing or a third grader is doing, okay, in your mixed classes, that's fantastic for them. You got a question, Ashley, hang on.
Okay.
This is from Scott Tampa. Says, I was wondering if Ashley has any contact with Lahaina. Did I pronounce that right? What's the latest going on there?
I, I'm not on Maui. I only kind of just see what's going on. I know that there's, I think, two
Did I
residents.
pronounce that correctly, by the way?
Lahaina, yeah, you did.
Okay, all right. Just want to
You
make
did.
sure I pronounced that right.
I mean, I've only been hearing things, but I know that two families have rebuilt their homes in Lahaina, and they've just moved in.
Two?
So two.
Two?
Just
I,
Just
two.
two?
know it's ridiculous in the sense, but two families, I kind of was reading an article about it. They, finally rebuilt and they're there. But no, I don't know what's going on basically behind the scenes with that. I unfortunately, sorry, Scott.
And this is Trisha, I think you're right about this. I'm not mistaken. The Gifted Kids program was taken out in California. Can anyone confirm this? I think you're absolutely correct. I think I saw an article. I think in that article, I think they mentioned something about that. And that's not just in California, that's happening in a lot of blue states because
Yep.
in the reality is they don't want gifted kids, right? Because ever since we went to the and you guys have heard me say this ad
Cause
nauseum.
disparity or something.
Ever since we went to the Rockefeller way of teaching our kids, okay, they want to put out drones and not thinkers, right? So like they want worker bees is what they want. All right.
Yep.
So any of these kids that are gifted, they're not getting what it is that they need, which is an absolute
Didn't
travesty.
didn't
It is.
Washington
And
get
I
rid
think
of it because of
also,
the gifted program? What the student body wasn't diverse enough or something like that?
Yes. Yes.
It
The
was like
state of
all Asian
Washington, I
kids or
think.
something like that?
Bro, I think you're absolutely correct, man, on that. I think the state of Washington got rid of it because it wasn't diverse enough, right? So, like, they went into the DEI shit, equity stood out, but there's no such thing as equity, all right? The only thing, all right, people are entitled to in our country, all right, is the equality of opportunity. You're not going to get the equality of results. Some people are going to do better. Some people are just going to wash out when it comes to things, all right? That's the only equal that you get is an equal opportunity to do something. That's what you're entitled to with anything you do in life is an equal opportunity. And if you can handle it, you can do it. If you can't, you're gonna fail. But yes, Trish, I see. I think hang on. Okay, that's what is this? She says Trisha says have all the kids tested for an IEP and it's start at the school's expense. Oh, that's for you, I think. That's for you.
so yeah, for where IEP, that's for special education services. So
Okay.
that is a federal program. So that is part of the public school system. I mean, even with that though, there's so many different strings attached to that. You have students that you're with your students, right? You have to collect all this data in a certain amount of time before you actually have that student tested. And even at that, after collecting all the data and knowing your student, knowing that they need services, they can tell you no, they don't meet the criteria because IQ is here, it has to be here. Because I went through that my first year of teaching. I knew my student needed more than what I was giving them. And that was what they told me. Oh, his IQ is here. He doesn't need any services. I'm like, you sat in my class for 30 minutes to kind of walk. And that's what you're telling me because his IQ? No.
Oh. She says also. She says, and I know I've actually spoken with Trish on this a little bit. In what do you call it? On Instagram, and she says, "No, wait, where's your first one? Hang on, here it is. The first one. She has two comments. She says, hire an educational advocate and never go into a meeting without one. Believe me, it's worth it." And then she says, and you can write off the educational advocate because hey, it's school related. She has Trish, I'm gonna have to get you on the show, all right? Because honestly, because like we were having a discussion and you were schooling me on some shit that I didn't even know, and I would really like to have you talk about that because I think this all goes into homeschooling, school choice, and all that other stuff, and everything. And Scoob, what's going on, man? Scoob is in the house. Um, we would love to have you. And she says, her final, that's why you, as an expert, an education advocate, a private one. She feels that. I think that's a great compliment. I think you obviously know what it is that you're doing, Ashley, and I think what you're doing with children right now is just it's phenomenal. Okay, and I hope that hey, listen, if you need to get the word out about your program, you can come on here as many times as you need. I will blast it all over my IG page and Twitter and everything. Let everybody know if you're in the beautiful state of Hawaii, and you're on the Big Island. This is who you contact, for some homeschooling. And I hope it grows, and I hope you get a community of like-minded teachers as well, and other people. So one of the one of the good reasons that like charter schools have been so effective is that even though yes they do get some funding from the state and federal funding, it's their teachers are not necessarily teachers in the same sense of like going to get your education, taking whatever state testing you have to do. A lot of them come from the private sector, okay, and they're specialized in something. They might be an accountant, so their math skills are off the chart and they can teach math and whatnot. So I hope that whatever it is that you're doing, I hope it grows. I hope, if you have a warehouse that has space to, accommodate more kids, obviously not too many because I think overcrowding is a big issue too. And I don't think you would do that anyway in your program. It's obvious the way you have it set up is to give maximum effect of teaching, okay, with the amount of kids that you have. But I hope you can take your program and move it on to middle school and to high school as well. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Scott, you had a question, I think. I'm sorry. I think I cut you off, bro.
I don't remember what it was at this point, to be
This is
honest.
here's another comment from Trisha. She says there's a lot of many parents that don't know, and of course school reps that don't tell us. You're right, Trisha. You're absolutely correct. I mean, the school is not out there. The school is just out there to make money. That's it. Holy shit. This must be in your state. This
Ashley,
is a
what's
big
the
thing.
Ashley, what's the teachers union presence on the islands out there?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I was never a fan of the teachers union. I feel
Hmm.
like I was never a fan, and it's just so weird because of the stigma that you get. Like you have to be a part of the union, you have to pay
Hmm.
the dues, and all of these things. But it's like, no, I don't believe in some of the stuff that they're pushing, especially when COVID came. Oh, it was just night and day. A lot of the things that was happening. I'm like, well, who are they speaking for? So I mean, the union is involved basically, but I think not in a way that's beneficial to everybody. Kind of like public school. It's just like a
But
one.
are they basically have a say in like all the districts?
I mean, it's more like for help. If you need help with certain things in school,
Mm.
they make sure that contracts are being followed. If things are
Okay.
not, they're there to help support in that sense. Hawaii is a lot different than a lot of the other states because of our school board. We have one school board that's on Oahu, and it's governor elected officials in those positions versus it being citizen elected. And that was something that I was running on also. I really wanted to change the way the school board was. For me, I
Well,
want to go to
wait a
those.
minute. Wait. Hold up.
Sounds
Say that again.
shady.
Wait a minute. Say that again. Your school board is appointed by
Governor
Our
the
appointed?
governor?
school board is governor appointed versus
Right there,
it
that's
being
all
citizen
shady shit.
elected. Yeah,
Oh wow.
and so that was something. So it's interesting. It's kind of gonna go. I'll go back a little bit to when we had our governor race.
Uh,
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with BJ Penn.
Yes.
He was running for governor. He was pushing for citizen elected school boards. He was trying to get that whole board of education, department of education thing totally revamped. But in Hawaii, it's governor appointed, governor elected. Basically, he'll say who he wants to run the board and department of education. And I didn't know anything different when I started visiting my sister. I saw a lot of the signs that says for school board. I'm like, what? I told her, I'm like, what is that? Like, for school board, you guys can run for a school board? She said, yeah, you have to run for your school board in your district. I said, that's ridiculous. And so that was something that I really wanted to push here. Like I mentioned, I can't go to these meetings. They hold Zoom meetings at 10 o'clock in the day. I'm like, what person what parent, a concerned parent, is going to be able to do this at 10 o'clock in the day? I'm like in the middle of my reading class. I can't just log into Zoom and sit there waiting for me to, give my feedback on some of these things. So I really was trying to push for school boards to be on each island because I want to show up. I want to show up, and a lot of other parents want to show up, and they want to talk, and they want to voice their concerns. We just can't do that unless we fly to Oahu and do that. So it's just so unfair the way all of these things are, especially for our island. That's why I say Hawaii is such a corrupt state. It's unbelievable. It really is, with everything.
Oh, that's just that's amazing.
what are your okay, it's good, Eric. I got
No, I
another
said that's
question.
just amazing that what do you call it, that it's governor appointed for school boards on the state of Hawaii. But again,
Yep.
the only way to change that, and I've said this ad nauseum all the time, is you have to get the right people. The people have to rise up, elect the right people, put them in place in order to change things in their state, right? That the law obviously has to get changed. And you also got to have a governor that's not going to veto it, and then you also got to have a veto proof. House, Senate, and state legislature. Okay, in order to say if the governor vetoes it, this is what we're going to do. So in order to change stuff like that, that's just amazing to me that parents essentially don't have. You guys don't have any rights on the state of Hawaii.
Yep.
Go ahead, Red Day. I'm sorry.
I don't. But you know what? Just the fact that I wasn't aware that that was even a thing. Um, that's probably I would not be surprised. Like obviously, one of the things that Trump is trying to do is he wants to do away with the Department of Education.
Yeah.
And but if that's a thing that exists in Hawaii, I could totally see many blue states doing that,
Hmm.
where they just say, well, okay, well, we're just running it ourselves then, and we're going to appoint our own, committees or or boards to run the state, and that just defeats the purpose of getting rid of the Department of Education
Yeah,
This
no,
if
is
that, and
you
that's
want to be able to
whole
let the
conversation
people
that
decide what they want for their
that
state
even
and for their
to
kids.
get rid of the
Yeah.
So
public board
This is a good
education.
this is and I think you probably agree with this, is the view about Hawaii, unfortunately, is out of sight, out of mind. They do whatever they want to do. We have the video from Hawaii based upon the board cheating and not listening to the people about voting and whatnot. Yeah,
Yep.
that's just so true. It's like that up in Alaska too, like, out of sight, out of mind. They're doing all kinds of it's and Alaska is a red state, and Lisa Murkowski and her ilk managed to bamboozle the people to change the voting in their state to ranked choice voting, which ended up, she ended up losing. She got primaried out. They changed the rules up there, and then she was able to get back in, and ended up winning the Senate seat again. Where she got primaried out by a conservative Republican that was, that thoroughly thumped her and stuff. So, unfortunately, states like yours and Alaska are out of sight, out of mind, and that's a great analogy right there. I just That's just a mind-boggling. You said now your sister's in another. Is she in one of the 48?
She's in Arizona.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. You
And
said there
so,
was. You
yeah,
did say
like,
that. You did say
yeah,
that.
she was telling me, and then when I go to visit her, she'll pull up it's called like the ESA site where you can select the things you want. I was mind blown. I'm like, you guys have this? This is amazing for families, for parents. I cannot even believe that we wouldn't we just can't push that through for all schools.
Hey, Jonathan, can you do me a favor? Because I know that Arizona has school choice, but I feel like there's a few other states that now have school choice. Can you run that up for us, please? I see how many other states have school choice. That's very important. I'm all for medical freedom. Listen, I take the same position as RFK Jr., right? Like, is it just people should be able to make the decisions on their own, and they should have all the information to make the correct decision for themselves and what they feel is right for their family, period. And you shouldn't be mandated for shit. COVID woke me up to a lot of things. The pandemic, opened my eyes. And again, I was in medicine. I was headed towards trying to become a PA and whatnot. And the medical tyranny just forced me away from it, and I had this bad taste in my mouth, and I was like, what? Like the whole year of 2020 working in a hospital and dealing with, having to work up on the ICU. Like I had to do rotations through there and everything like that, from my unit up to ICU, where everybody was getting exposed to COVID and everything like that. And you know I was a hero for all of that, right, and stuff. And then like 2021 came around, where we all became zeros, and then what I saw came was just like, yeah, I don't want to be part of that. So I'm hoping that maybe there's some change. There has been some change again in the medical community. um Thousands of doctors were against, what was going on. They got silenced, obviously, and they got, censored on stuff on all kinds of platforms. Many of them lost their jobs and lost their licenses for speaking out. And I know a lot of people were tripping over Trump's Surgeon General, what do you call it, pick, because of her stance. She kind of had some changes later on, 2 years later. With that said, I don't know if you saw his NIH pick. He out and out was against everything that the fucking Biden
Jay,
administration was doing. Yeah, his NIH head is just like he was all
solid.
against lockdowns and all that other shit. So that there's a back and forth. So like I said, I'm all for medical freedom. I just want people to make the decisions with all the information possible. We need some transparency. Big pharma has to be held accountable again for not only vaccines but for medications, okay? Because they got in the 1980s, they essentially were given freedom to do whatever the fuck they want, and they haven't been ethical, you know. And the argument is always about medical innovation, which is bullshit. It's a shit argument, really, right? Like they should be held accountable so they do the right thing, and when they're innovating, they innovate, you know, the right way. If anything, we're always behind. I don't know if you pay attention to Europe. In Europe, they have like some great medications for things that they use for stuff and other things that we don't. And it takes us like 10 years to get these same medications from other countries that are beneficial to whatever patients, whatever illnesses and stuff like that. And it takes us like 10 years because the FDA doesn't fucking approve them and stuff like that. So, you know, that's another thing that Trump is trying to fix, you know, that we can get faster approval for better things. And, you know, obviously not everybody's going to experience the same thing. Some people are going to have adverse effects. That is a thing, you know. And again, COVID woke me up to a lot of shit, you know, having been in medicine and being EMS and stuff like that. You know, it just changed my mind on a lot of things. Let's see. Let's get into I think Jonathan came up here. Does Jonathan, these are the school choice? Louisiana, Nebraska, Florida, Oklahoma, Tennessee. Wow, quite a bit. Alabama, Georgia, Utah, Iowa, Kansas. I don't know what that. Oh, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Idaho, Kentucky, Wyoming, Texas, Mississippi all have universal school choice. That's phenomenal. I didn't know that that many states had that. That's incredible. Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't even know that. I honestly didn't even know that. You know,
I was
so it
pretty sure
goes to
Florida.
yeah. It just you know. Well, look into that, Scott. Look into that to see if Florida has that too, or they're working on it.
Well, they
Uh,
were on the list. I think
you
you
know.
read them off.
Oh, did he? Oh, did he? Were they on that list?
Florida, I
Yeah,
think
they're on
Florida.
there. I'm just saying. I was
Yeah, yeah,
trying to
yeah,
remember.
yeah. They were
I
on the
thought
yep, they
Florida
were at the
had it
top.
too.
Yep, 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 yep. You're right. You're right. It was at the top of that list and
Yeah.
and whatnot. So, you know, I think school choice is a good thing, you know, and I hope we can get it. I really hope it can be universal to every state. And, you know, it starts by getting rid of the Department of Education. That was just a travesty. That was a disaster. And by getting rid of the Department of Education, it starts taking away the powers that the school unions have. The National School Union, who's run by that Weingarten chick, okay, you know, that evil demon. All right, they have so much. Their lobbying power right now is just astronomical, and that power has to get taken away from them. But they run all their stuff through the Department of Education, right? So, you know, they're just locked at the hip with each other. So if you know, if the DED could get rid of, we can get rid of that. That would be fantastic. That'd be a great thing, you know. So, you know, I really hope though, Ashley, I really hope that you decide to do it again because like your state needs you. They need people like you, and if not you, I hope you find somebody to run again. You know, on behalf of the people of your not only your district but your state. You know, they need people. Your state, every state needs people like you who are willing to sacrifice, okay, and just get up and do it. You know, and I'm glad that we had you on the show today to be able to discuss on what it is. You know, which is we actually didn't get into. So what did you have to do? How did you file? How did all that? What do you call it?
Yeah,
Take place?
so you had to gather.
Yeah, this is, by the way, this is for the state of Hawaii. Out of every state, I'm probably different, but I'm pretty sure there's some similarity to it as well.
Yeah, so getting you needed 15 signatures from residents in your district. You had to do this, you know, get it notarized and stuff. Once they do that, they'll check it to make sure that those people are actually in the district. And it was so crazy because I went and I got at least 25 because I didn't know if some people, you know, maybe it wasn't accurate. Half of my signatures were not valid because of address changes. So a lot of people had their addresses were wrong. So if in just that little time, just collecting my 25 signatures, I can imagine how many people for voting purposes had their addresses wrong. And just to think about all of those things, like, you know, as far as voting goes, it's crazy that that was happening. So then I had to go back and get more signatures. And then I had to, you know, I had to reach out to all those people like, hey, you got to update your address on the website. And they're like, how do you do that? Doesn't it self update? I'm like, no, I think you have to do it yourself. So once I did get all of that, you have to decide what type of, I guess financially, you can go with paying $250 for filing fees, meaning you're going to be getting more donations than the allotted amount. And if you were only going to get a certain amount, which stayed below like the state requirement, then you would have to get, I think you would only pay like $25. But because my team had told me I needed X amount of money, I had to pay that filing fee. So after I did that, I had someone help me with my finances because you have to file reports every so many months to kind of show the amount of money that's coming in, what you're using it on. So I did not, like I mentioned, I had like no political background whatsoever. So I had someone help me with that, who's kind of upkeeping on all of those things. But I know that's like a big deal because you get fined if you don't turn it in or you don't file on a certain date and whatnot. So, I mean, it was pretty much that, it was easy, kind of do the things that you want to do. Like I said, if you have a good team that's there for you and doing what you want and helping you fulfill your campaign goals, it works out. But for me, I was kind of like, after dealing with all of that, I'm like, it's not for me. So we kind of did grassroots style where we only did our own. We kind of reached out to the people around us. I worked with both of our Republican parties on the east and the west side of my island. So it was easy. It's as easy as you want to make it, basically. The effort that you put in is what you'll get basically back. I think with my school and just growing up in this district, I know a lot of people, and I've been in this community. I haven't gone anywhere, and I've been here. So I think name recognition was pretty big as well too, out here in my area. But it's a lot. It's a lot of extra things that you have to do. So if you have all of that time to kind of put towards that, that's great. But I was juggling multiple things, so it was kind of I was just trying to make sure that I stayed balanced in my area and make sure I didn't overwhelm myself, because sometimes it does get overwhelming. I get up in the middle of the night like, oh my gosh, I got to get my signs out. I have this coming up. I have to make a speech for this. I have to speak here. It can get really stressful at times, but just, keeping that balance of sanity, because you're basically the one that decides how crazy it's going to get.
What are your so after all of that and having run, what are your lessons learned? What would you do differently?
I think for me, what I would do differently, I would try to, and it's hard because I know what I would want to do, but it's just if people show up. And I've seen that where we had candidates create these, meet and greets, and nobody shows up to it. And they put a lot of time and effort into that. And it's just such a bummer. And then nobody shows up. It's kind of like a slap in the face, right? You're putting your
All right.
name out there in the community to do all these things, and then nobody comes to support you. And so that was something that I was hesitant on running for this time, because I saw that happen, and I was like, man, I don't know if I could do that, put myself out there in that way. But I know that getting out there, having smaller meet and greets, and going to places that a lot of people go, where a lot of families are, because that's the majority in my district, is a lot of multi-generational families. But I honestly think that I probably wouldn't do anything differently. I think when you appeal to your constituents, they want to see somebody that's in the community. They want to see a person out there making a difference, doing all the things that they say they're going to do. That's what they want to see. But it really is, I think, educating people on what's out there, educating them about what the representatives are pushing out. So I know that a couple of candidates and I were going to be keeping people updated on that. A lot of the things that's going to be coming through in the state house for voting, we're going to be pushing out the bill so people know that, hey, this is coming up. This is a real actual bill that they're going to be voting on, that you need to know about. Because like I mentioned, when I put that comparison chart out, people were shocked. They thought it was propaganda and fake news when it was 100% facts. So I think
Yeah.
educate people more on what's really happening. And I think that can go both ways too, right? They'll look at you like you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? This person would never do something like that. But in
Right.
fact, yes, it is. It's right under our noses.
People don't even want to know. Like if you
And
try to
I think the
Half the
problem
time
is.
when I try to show them
Yep,
things, they don't even want to see it.
yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, you're obviously a candidate that didn't, you didn't take money from people. You, what do you call it? You didn't with your state party. You didn't do any of the quid pro quo shit. Unfortunately, the state parties are, just as corrupt, on both sides of the spectrum and stuff like that. I remember, I remember, like I was always a conservative. I was part of the Young Republican movement in the state of New York in the 1990s and whatnot. And we had a Republican governor. We had a fantastic Republican mayor and stuff like that. And our Republican governor, he essentially did nothing for the Republican Party. We had an opportunity. The state of New York wasn't always as bad as what it was, right? There was always some like Republicans usually held the state Senate, and then the Democrats usually held, the state assembly. Okay. And so there was always some back and forth. You were always able to there was some middle ground. And then just like, I forgot when it happened. It probably happened in the early 2000s, maybe just a little bit before 2010. The Democrats finally got a supermajority, and we had like a history of one Democrat governor after the next that has just been one. They've always been worse than the previous one, stuff like that. Like we have this monkey that's running the state now and whatnot. And she's an idiot, and the people freaking voted for her, and they should have voted for Lee Zeldin. We'd have a better governor right now. I'm just glad I'm leaving this fucking state. But you know, there was some middle ground there, and but the state party, I just remember in the 90s and stuff like that, and I remember what the young Republican head, what she was going through at the time, and she was like very, very conservative and stuff, and what she had to deal with the count, just with the county head, not even on the state level. We were just working on the county, and it was like, holy shit, this is ridiculous. And I remember she wanted me to take over for her, and I was like, I'm not dealing with these guys. I saw it right there. I was like, these guys are all they're all about the Benjamins, this, that, how much money and whatnot. They're not here to really, really make any real moves, and our county was starting to go blue. It did go red this time around, but it was going blue for a while and stuff like that. And they didn't really do anything to make any moves. And like, for the county seat and everything like that, they didn't really do the move. The county legislature, they didn't do much. And I was like, I stepped away from it. um, it's a shame because there were a lot of good young Republicans that were like really, really, like really conservative and wanted to run and wanted to do things, but they just weren't getting the support. Going back to what Scott was saying earlier in the show, that machine, that old world machine, that old world mentality and everything like that is just ridiculous. You know, so that's
It's an ongoing fight in every state, in every locality. It's never like, you get through one election and then that's it. The work is done. It's just something ongoing. That's why you always have to keep finding new people to help support you. People, because it's tough for the average person to just stay invested over a long period. People
yeah,
don't have the attention spans. Um, they think they get through one election and okay, let's get the results now. And it's not like that. If you're gonna
yeah,
really like affect change, like we didn't get. I tell people all the time, we didn't get to where we are now from like one or two elections gone wrong. It's been like decades of elections gone wrong
yeah.
and
We've
kind of
had,
like slowly drifting in one direction.
yeah,
And it's going to take that. Unfortunately, it's going to take that long to drift back. It's not going to happen in like one election cycle. Just because Trump won doesn't mean every district in the country is going to
yeah, yeah.
have it
It,
better.
it's
Some
not an
things may,
overnight
in
thing.
some ways, maybe, but like most things, it won't. You have to have good local representation all the way to the top. Good judges, good sheriffs.
Yeah, that's really important. We can't stress that enough about local elections, about how important they are, about having the right people because,
District attorneys, yeah, all
yeah,
those things. You need
those are
good
really
people.
key. Yeah, those are really key. District attorneys, judges. How's are the judges in Hawaii appointed? Because we've talked at length about how on local levels and village, like local towns and villages and stuff like that, you could usually still elect what do you call it, judges, but it's like the higher courts in the states that are usually appointed by the governor, in the
Yeah.
cities appointed by mayors. So are all your judges appointed, or do you get to vote for judges there
I
as
have
well?
never voted for a judge or a sheriff in my life, so it's definitely appointed.
No shit. Even your sheriffs.
That's there you go. That's how they
That's
maintain control.
insane. That's how they maintain control. Yeah, it's just if everybody's appointed in your state, there's just until you guys change the state laws in your state, you're gonna have that fucking
Yep.
the rot that you guys have on both sides. Whether they have a R or a D is just gonna continue to be
Yeah.
like that. That's insane.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's like that, like when you think about that, when I think about that here, it's like, well, why do I even want to run? I already know, I feel like I already know what the outcome is going to be. And it's just so
Mhm.
like disheartening when you think about all of those things, what you're really up against. And it's like, man, you really like, you didn't stand any chance from the beginning. So it's hard. It really is. I mean, there is a few that really get in there and they really do flip it, but it's just very rare to see that.
Yeah.
So how was it in your state overall, right? Like, so I've seen maps showing that the overall shift to I want to say more towards the center in some states and more towards the right in others. Okay. There was a shift in Hawaii as well. That just happened all across the country. Where did you see it,
So
in
it
your
was
state?
on Oahu, like I mentioned. We gained a Republican senator. We gained, I want to say, three other House reps, Republican House reps. But it's so interesting. So one of the local media, Civil Beat, they released our islands, right? And then they kind of did the color coding with the red, the blue, the purple. And there
Mm.
was my district was gray. They had no color for my district. I'm like, how
Oh
do you not
shit.
have a color for my
Yeah.
district? Crazy. But there were parts of Oahu that were red, but it's
Mhm.
still, all the islands are still incomplete. Like you can't really see all of it. So it was such a bummer to know that you got all the votes in. So what's stopping you from color coding it? Like what's the holdup here?
Well, they don't wanna show, so again, that Democrat machine on your island does they don't wanna show. If the shift is moving towards the right, it's showing that they're having a problem with the populace now, okay?
Right.
And it's gonna continue to be that way and continue to shift the more and more they do bullshit on your island, because that's what's happened across the country in every state, is the shift towards the right, okay, is not even necessarily from people who are conservative. Just for the first time, they voted in the opposite direction because they're just tired of the bullshit that's going on. They're tired of not being able to afford, gas, tired of not being able to afford the groceries, tired of all this fucking transformer shit that's going on everywhere and stuff like
Exactly.
that. They're tired of all of that shit.
Exactly.
Ashley, what was the name of that one little island that went 100% for Trump?
Oh, that was, you gave me a different name. It is Ni'ihau.
Yeah, I think I named the town, not the island.
Yeah, it was a different name. That's why I wasn't sure what
Yeah,
what you were talking about. And when I pulled it up, I'm like, oh yeah, Ni'ihau. So yeah, they went. There's like, that's a
it's not a
very
big
like
island.
limited. Yeah, it's the smallest island, and it's you can only access it if you are family there, or if it's a very private island. So like nobody can go there basically.
What what's the overall? I was just curious because I'm sure it's small, but like, what's the overall population on the island? Is it like about 100 people or not even
I
that?
am not. I'm not positive on that. I think it's less than 100 people. It's basically the
No.
family that owns it. That's
Okay,
on that island. Yeah.
that's cool.
So what do they got? Like coffee? Got a coffee plantation and they own
That,
the island?
that No,
Yeah,
it
it's like
is.
a really small island.
Yeah, it's a very small, the smallest island, and it is only accessible by that family. They
Mhm.
are 100% Native Hawaiian that owns that, Native Hawaiians that own that island.
So
Oh
Oprah
shit.
doesn't have a house there.
I'm sure they have. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm sure they
I
have a
said,
house there. No, you can't like have a house. You can't be like,
no,
um,
I'm saying Oprah doesn't have a house on
Yeah,
there.
she doesn't own
absolutely
she,
not.
she
No,
doesn't
they're
own
not
any
even
of the
allowed to
property
step
there.
foot on that island. Not at all.
Wow.
That's most important.
So it's just
Keep them out.
essentially the whole island filled with a family. Period.
Yeah.
And that's something else. That's crazy. Well,
Imagine if they ever wanted to sell it, they could probably sell it for a lot of money. Someone wanted a private island.
yeah, I don't know if they want to give up their that familial
Oh,
freaking.
I hope they don't, but I'm saying if they ever wanted to cash in on it, there's somebody out there would probably give them a couple $1 billion for like an island or something like that.
Yeah, there's people buying islands everywhere, man. I know in the Caribbean, there's like off of some
Crazy.
of those Caribbean islands, people got their own little freaking islands and how they got plumbing and all that other shit. It's actually pretty ingenious when you think about it. They got their own shit.
Wasn't there wasn't there like a small island off the coast of New York where some tech billionaire bought like he built a house out there or something like that? I thought there was like a
The
small
only
island.
the only
Island.
island I know is Long Island and maybe in the Sound. There's an island in the nah, I think the Sound is actually islandless, going towards Connecticut and whatnot and everything, and Massachusetts and everything. Uh, I I don't know. Who knows? Maybe out by Montauk at the
And
end of Long
it
Island and
wasn't
whatnot.
big. I think the island literally had like room for like one house, maybe two. It was
Yeah,
like
maybe
really
that's what I said.
small.
Maybe out towards Montauk, which is like the end of Long Island. That's at the like the absolute end. Maybe there's like a small island out there. I don't know. Something I could look up and stuff like that. But that's you know, it's just been great. It's been great to hear your story, Ashley. It's been great to hear what it is that you had to contend with. Because I just imagine that most people that run, especially on the local level, we have we got Robert who's in the chat and stuff like that. He ran too, and it's just the corruption you guys had to go up against and stuff like that. It's something else. I admire the fact that you ran up against that machine in Hawaii. That is a serious machine in Hawaii that has been entrenched there on that island for, I mean, going back probably since the beginning of the 20th century. You know, it's just been just going back there, just being on the island even before it became a state and all that other stuff. That just that's how deep it goes. Like the corruption and shit like that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's something else. It's just really, really something else. But I really hope that your school. I really want to see your school blow up. I just want to continue to see things going on for the kids because that is what's most important is getting this next generation educated because we have a lot of uneducated people in our country that have all the kids during COVID are suffering right now,
Yep.
because of the lockdowns and not letting them go to school and everything. They're all paying for it in college and whatnot. Many of them, they just, again, we were talking about getting pushed ahead. They just got pushed ahead no matter what. They didn't even learn for 2 years straight. Okay, and they got pushed ahead. So I'm happy to see that you have a school that doesn't do any of the bullshit that the state wants you to do. That is fantastic. And I hope to see you guys grow to middle and high school. It'd be fantastic. Now, what are the rules with like kids playing sports? In a lot of states, if you're homeschooled, you're still allowed to play for your local high school and stuff like that. Do any of your
Not
kids?
not in Hawaii. And that was
No.
another thing that I was trying to also one of my platform pieces was definitely to make things for the homeschool students.
Hmm.
So they're not allowed to play. So if you are enrolled in, we have like online charter schools. If you are enrolled in an online charter school, you can participate in sports because it's part of the
Hmm.
public school system. But if you
Right.
are homeschooled, you cannot play sports at all
That
with your
sucks.
yeah, it's
That
it's
absolutely
ridiculous.
blows.
It does. It definitely does.
Wow, that sucks. I know a lot, like I said, I know a lot of, in many of the states, if you're homeschooled or if you go to a private school that doesn't have athletics and stuff like that, you can actually play for whatever the local public high school is if, you're good at a sport and stuff like that. But I know definitely with homeschooling, that's allowed in most of the 48s. If there's any other states other than Hawaii that don't allow their kids to play who are homeschooled, I don't know. Jonathan, that's another good question, bro. What states allow their kids to play? What home states to have homeschooling allow homeschool kids to play sports on
So they
public school
call that
teams?
they call that the Tim Tebow law.
is that what that's called? Didn't know
Tim
that.
Tebow.
I just learned
I
something.
think it was because of Tim Tebow they started pushing out something like that because he was homeschooled, right?
Right.
Tim
That I
Tebow.
knew. Yeah, I believe Tim Tebow, right.
So they made some kind of law where it would allow homeschooled students to be able to participate in extracurriculars and high school sports.
Oh, to participate. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I
I
didn't
thought he
know
was
was
on the
named
other
after
side.
him. Yeah, I knew he was homeschooled and whatnot and everything, and then obviously went to Florida and did his thing in Florida. I see, he's a guy that didn't really get the chance he deserved in the pros. The game wasn't ready for his type of football. Now if you look at all the young quarterbacks coming out of college, they all play like Tebow did when Tebow was playing. That running, the what do you call it, the speed option and all that other stuff and everything. It's just amazing. He was ahead. He was ahead, but the NFL hadn't caught up to that yet. They
Kind
were
of.
like
He was a
years
little
behind.
slow. I think he was a little slow for the NFL.
Uh,
I don't remember a lot of it, but I kind of remember him being kind of slow back there.
not for the game that was being played at the time. Okay, he was definitely faster than most of the quarterbacks in the league and stuff like that. It just wasn't ready for him. What he was playing at in Florida and stuff
Like
like
when you
that, the NFL wasn't ready for that yet. So
No, what I'm
Jonathan
saying,
said
like
that,
when you're in the NFL and you have like a mobile quarterback, you have like a Michael Vick or something like that. If you're
yeah.
going to be a mobile quarterback, you better be freaking fast because you're going to
Oh
have these
yeah,
monsters chasing you. And I
yeah.
don't
No,
think he was good. He wasn't good swinging out of the pocket because they would chase him down pretty easily.
yeah, but he
At least
also
that's
never
I don't. But I
he
didn't see
also
a lot of his games.
he also never had the fucking offensive line. That's the thing that, like, with what's his face, that's no longer with the Giants. Even though he really shouldn't have
That's
been the
never going to help
starting.
anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah, no matter how good
I,
you are, no
bro,
offensive line's
I'm a
going to kill you.
Bro, I'm a diehard Giants fan, and after their last freaking Super Bowl, it went to crap. Okay, they never got a line for Eli Manning. He used to get annihilated back there, and it's just the same thing every year. No matter what quarterback they bring in, it doesn't matter. Daniel Jones, who's very fast, one of the fastest guys in the league. Okay, no offensive line. Not the best quarterback and stuff like that, but he could have been respectable. All right, if he would have just had some protection, and when he had protection, he did great things. He just never had protection. Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, so Jonathan says that 20 states allow it, Ashley, homeschool to participate in sports, and then he gave a website for it. It's the northgateacademy.com. Homeschoolers and sports at a state by state guide. So I'll definitely go in there. So I would like, though, what I would like from you, Ashley, is, and I'll put that in the description a little bit later. I would like your information for your homeschool so I can, what do you call it? I can put your website down on there. I got your Instagram information there, but I'd like to put your homeschool information. So if anybody would like to read about what it is that she does at her school and how her school is set up, I'm sure her website will give you all the information that you need.
Yep.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So I think we're gonna call it a little bit early tonight. We got about another 10 minutes that we usually go, but I gotta get up early and pack.
All
I'm
good.
exhausted because I've been packing all day today because I didn't do it yesterday. I was too lazy yesterday on Thanksgiving Day. That I didn't do what I was supposed to, and I've been doing shit all day, and I'm still not done. I got to get it done before the end of the weekend. But uh, Ashley Oyama, okay, who ran for her House district in Hawaii, okay, House District number 5. Uh, Unfortunately, we didn't get her in the beautiful state of Hawaii, but I'm hoping that she runs again because we need people like her. And if she doesn't run again, I hope that she has somebody in mind to help now that she knows how things are done and stuff like that. So even if you choose not to run, Ashley, please use your knowledge to help the next person, pass it on, and be in their corner. And if you do run, give us all the information we need because we will blast it all
Yeah,
over the airwaves for you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So if you want to say goodbye, Ashley, for the night, and tell everybody again where they could find you, and whatnot, and what you might have going.
All right, yes. So I can be found on Instagram. My personal is Ashley_Oyama. I do have my school account that is Kupa'a_homeschool. My website is kupaahomeschool.com. KUPAA homeschool.com.
Never pronounce anything from Hawaii the right way. I always get it fucked up. If I try to pronounce it, I'll fuck it all up. I'm not even gonna try. Well, Ashley, thank you again for coming on. It was a fantastic conversation. It was great to hear your story, what drove you to run. It's even more for me. The even more fantastic story was your school and what it is that you're doing for education. Okay, in your district for your kids, because that is just an incredible thing. And it's very important. It's not an easy thing to do, especially with the forces that that are against you coming from the state and obviously the federal government, when it comes to teaching kids and whatnot. So I think it's just an incredible thing what you're doing. So we definitely want to have you on again. I hope we'll see you again, not only running, but definitely come on. If you got anything new that comes up, please give us a shout out. We'll bring you back on.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Red Day, what do you got, brother? Got anything?
No, nothing. You know where to find me. Red Daywalker 2.0 on Instagram and Patriot Daywalker on Rumble. And just appreciate everyone showing up in the chat today. And look forward to seeing everybody again on Monday.
And you got a message from Rogue Nina. She says definitely never give up, Ashley. We need more great teachers. Run for your district and your school for your kids.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I told you before we got a good chat. We got good people. They're all educated. They're all patriots, and they've all had we all have a story to tell, and all of them have it too. And that's what this channel is all about, is about patriots. So with that said, I will take us out. And Red Day, just hang out, Scott, just because I got to talk to you about our other shows. Take it easy, Ashley. Thank you again for coming on. Well, America, that was Ashley Oyama, who ran in Hawaii, in the state of Hawaii, and she had a bit of a tough race because of the forces she was up against, but she held in there. And I think the story that really came out of it that was fantastic is what it is that she's doing for kids in her district on her island with her homeschooling program. I will get all the information that is required in regards to the information with her homeschooling, and I will I'll put it in the description for y'all in case you all want to check it out and whatnot. So once again, love you guys in the chat. You guys are freaking awesome. You guys always make things wonderful. You guys make the show progress very, very well, and I just love the dialogue you guys have with one another. A lot of times it's very funny. Thank you, Jonathan, again for doing your thing behind the scenes like you do for us. The show wouldn't be anything without you. We always need you, and the information you bring to us is always fantastic. So with that said, I'm the Big Red One guy signing out. God bless you all. God bless America. And remember, okay, that only together can we break the machine. We will see you on Monday. We will have a show this Monday, and we'll be talking about California politics on Monday. Have a good night, fam, and enjoy your weekend.